When a good time turns around, you must whip it. You will never live it down unless you whip it. No one gets away until they whip it. As you may have guessed from the Devo song in the opening, this is a whip-only run. Well, kind of. Turns out there are two whips, the normal one and the blue one. In order to become the Lord of the Lash, you need both of them to evolve into a Mega Whip, which I will absolutely be doing. As far as rules go, they're reasonably simple. Whips only, so I limit my weapons to two. One for the normal whip, and one for the blue whip. Also, no revives because revives are cheating. I will be using the limit break mechanic, but spoilers, it doesn't really come into play. And finally, I will cease moving before the 20-minute mark in the run because walking is lame, and I don't want to. I'm playing on the Mad Forest for the simple purpose that it's one of the maps I haven't used in a video yet, and, as stated previously, I'm a variety enjoyer. For my first Arcana, I pick up the Silent Old Sanctuary for purposes of rerolls. I'm going to have to do a lot of banishing and skipping if I'm eventually going to roll the blue whip, so this seems like an obvious choice. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot of banishing and skipping, and the first offering at level up illustrates that perfectly. If you're by some chance off-put by the fact that I'm using 2 weapon slots in a 1-weapon run, you can take solace in the fact that this actually makes the game slightly more difficult. If I had just 1 slot, it would be filled with the whip, allowing me to exclusively roll for accessories. But with the second slot open, I'm going to be offered a large amount of weapons that I can't use and be forced to banish them instead of upgrading my current items. So these current items will remain crappy for longer as I sift through the deluge of unacceptable offerings. I do eventually find a level for the whip, but if my other slot had been closed off, I would have had many more. Instead, I'm obliged to throw the weapons that I'm offered on the ground, disgusted by the fact that they are not whips. As far as accessories go, spinach is fine. Who doesn't like some extra damage? It also gives me another outlet in which to put my levels, instead of banishing with reckless abandon. The Black Heart is essential in creating Mega Whip, so I pick it up and revel in the surplus health this item will grant me. These flowers appear and start acting like real circle jerks, in that they are jerks arranged in a circle. I deal with their malarkey for a bit before bursting through their wall of petals like the Kool-Aid Man through drywall. Health is kind of an issue in the early portion of the run. I don't have any sustain items yet, and I probably won't for a while, so I need to keep a close watch on the red bar floating above my head and scoop up some floor chickens if it gets too low. For my third accessory, I pick up the Red Book. It's one of the more generically useful items, granting me decreased cooldown between my attacks, allowing the steady crack of my whip to pick up the tempo a little bit. More circle jerks appear, and I'm surrounded by their flowery forms. They eke towards me as I fight off this horde of bats and this concerningly large praying mantis. I once again pull off my best Kool-Aid Man impression and run through the wall of predatory plant life. The horde of Skelebros appear, and I'm gifted with a triple chest. Contained within are 3 red books, further increasing the tempo of my whip cracks and theoretically allowing me to take on this swath of foes with greater ease. Just kidding, I am uncomfortably close to death, and instead of tackling the band of bones with courage, I flee to the nearest floor chicken in an attempt to restore my lost vitality. The ground paltry does little to assuage my fears of death, but alas, there are no more nearby floor chickens. I do get a level up though, and acquire the candle. The extra weapon area provided by this obelisk of wax is not overly helpful in my endeavors to not succumb to the icy clutches of death, but it makes my whip attacks bigger, so that's cool, I guess. Speaking of the cold, clammy hands of the Reaper, I am still unnervingly close to dying. The red heart is better than nothing, but still not an ideal long-term solution. While it does provide a modicum of healing, it is just a modicum, and I am taking more than a modicum of damage. At the risk of looking a gift horse in the mouth, I'm going to need more healing if I'm going to make it through the rest of the run. Salvation at last. I meander over to one of the chests on the ground and pop it open. Contained within is the answer to my health issues for the foreseeable future. The upgraded whip. This robust strap of leather is comparable to the strap I already had on, but differs in a couple of ways. First and foremost, this weapon will heal me when it crits. Oh, yeah, it can also crit. That's the second part. I care much less about that than the healing. After a brief sojourn into Accessoriesville, I make my way back to Banishland. The only weapon I want is the blue whip. While the upgraded normal whip is quite good, Mega Whip it is not. To acquire this, the whippiest of whips, I will need to find the blue whip and combine it with the upgraded whip and smush the two together to form the Mega Whip. For my second Arcana, I get the healing one. The heals provided by my whip are okay, and the red heart heals are serviceable. But with this Arcana, they will both double and deal a proportional amount of damage to enemies in my immediate vicinity. Kind of a 2-for-1 type of deal. Hurt and heal, all wrapped up in a nice little package. Several more banishes go by as the RNG gods do not gift me with the object of my desire. It matters not though. My damage is where it needs to be, and my sustain is where it needs to be. I can weather most storms that this map can throw at me at this point, and future items are sort of just icing on the cake. Eventually I acquire the blue whip. This second weapon attacks in the direction that my character is facing by producing a slew of crescents that deal damage to my enemies. It is solid enough and a good way to cut a trail through the hordes of enemies if the need arises. Where the weapon really shines is in its ability to combine with the upgraded whip, but I need to level it first. I have a little over 5 minutes left on the clock before I'm not allowed to move anymore, so I need to get to leveling this new weapon. I get damaged a bit during this experience grind, but shrug it off almost immediately. Within a few moments, my sustain items bring me back up to a comfortable health total. This next series of upgrades grants me the last level that I need in the blue whip, and I also acquire an armor for the sake of completion. There have been several life total scares throughout the run at this point, so a little bit of damage mitigation might do well to ameliorate the fear of dropping to 0 HP. I also slightly limit break the upgraded whip, but it won't matter momentarily. With everything upgraded, I walk over the chest that I've been saving and receive the object that I've been lusting after for this entire run, the Mega Whip. I know I hand wave a lot of the names in this game, but seriously, how does one even begin attempting to pronounce the name of this item? I level up and realize that there is no item that I actually even want. Mega Whip is all I need, so anything else that the game could offer is basically pointless. You know what else is pointless? Walking. So I cut that crap out with a quickness and plant my feet in their final position of the run. There is not really much to talk about for this bit. Mega Whip whips, and I don't walk. The enemies get a bit closer than I would like, but nothing overly threatening. This is the part of the video when I talk about something tangentially related to the title in order to avoid dead air. The topic of tangential discussion for this run is one-hit wonder songs, because I quoted Whip It in the introduction. If you don't care about this discourse, feel free to mute the video and enjoy the pretty colors. I had heard at some point that Devo actually really hated Whip It, and that they refused to play it live for a very long time. While I was doing a cursory amount of research into this claim, I could not find any evidence of this. In fact, I found a blurb to the contrary. This blurb claimed that they had no issue playing the song, which is cool for them, and probably their pocketbooks. That isn't the case for the musicians behind all one-hit wonders, however. I did my paltry amount of research for this video by spending 10 minutes reading about Devo, and I'm not going to do any more. But I would hazard a guess to say that there are a bevy of artists that hate the song that made them a one-hit wonder. I am of two minds about this phenomenon. On the one hand, people are paying to come see you live, and if they only know you for one thing, you are to one degree or another obligated to give them what they want, because they paid for tickets to come see you. On the other hand, I can absolutely understand how irksome it could be to be forced at financial knife point to regurgitate the same thing over and over again. particularly if the thing you are being forced to regurgitate is something that you no longer enjoy doing. So what is the solution to this predicament then? Does one refuse to play the material that made them famous in some semblance of artistic integrity? Or does one play Whip It for the 500th time, even though every time they utter the phrase, crack that whip, they die a little bit inside? I don't honestly know. I am a thorough enjoyer of artistic integrity, but I am also an enjoyer of not being homeless. So I can empathize with both sides. If a band is playing large venues and making money playing that music, I can imagine it would be beyond most people to throw that away and go back to a normie job for such highbrow notions as creative novelty. But if playing music becomes just as tedious as the normie job, is it even worth it? Anyways, here's Death to Come Kill Me. Whip Run Over, yada yada. Maybe go listen to some Devo B-sides or something.